Respected Principal Shanti George, dear students and the faculty members present here today, a very good afternoon and a very good morning to the resource person for the day, Anisha George, because I presume it is just 10 in the morning there in Dublin, because we had a confusion about the time when we were planning for this event. Actually, she had told me she will do the program at 11, but the chats were misplaced and I made a mistake and sent the time schedule as 10:30. But later on, she asked me very politely, and then I changed the time. Sorry for the inconvenience. Now, the webinar topic today is Sanitizing Us, a Gender Perspective at COVID Times. The word sanitizing that we used here has created a little confusion. People asked, why did you use the word sanitizing? But it was selected and was used very purposefully to emphasize the need to educate us all by removing any biases, any sexist biases that are being deeply engraved in our minds. These biases are created by the social constructs of the period and is imprinted in the subconscious mind for years and is passed on to the new generations right from their birth. The social constructs decide what is right and what is wrong for the society and dictates how we are supposed to go about with our lives. But there is a huge focus on gender equity in the current world, in India as well as in the Western world as well, be it an educational institution, a workplace, a political party, parliament, anywhere. This is primarily to address the imbalances created by being biased to a certain gender or not being biased to a certain gender. Gender equity is not just to push feminism forward, which is a buzzword nowadays. Gender equity is not just about women, but it is also equally about men. Both have their rights. We must be able to do what we feel is right. Nothing should prevent us from doing something that just because we belong to a particular gender. The higher education system in India and the UGC, etc., sees the need for this and hence has asked colleges to do programs to create consciousness among the youth of today, because they are the ones who are going to build business empires, build families, have children, work in environments with many genders, etc. They're exposed to the society and there is a need for change, or the change should come from them. I don't know whether you have read the poster properly. A good write-up has been given about gender equity by our English professor, Dr. Ramesh K. It's such a beautiful piece. If you have not read it, I would suggest that you should go back and read it. In that particularly, he has quoted the Nigerian writer Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, saying that the problem with gender is that it prescribes how we should be rather than recognizing how we are. So that is what we should change. So with that, I will go to my duty of welcoming. First, I would like to welcome our principal, Dr. Shanti George, who actually agreed to say a few words to felicitate the program, but she could not join us because there is a UG admissions going on currently and she could not come and join us. Also, I would like to welcome the resource person, Anisha George. We know her very personally, my family knows her. She's a psychologist and an addiction counselor working in Dublin, Ireland. She has a master's in science and psychology from India and a master's in arts in addiction studies from Dublin, Ireland. Currently, she's working as a project officer in Ireland. Next, I would like to welcome, I have Ramesh sir's friend here, Dr. Jisha John from St. Teresa's College, who happens to be my daughter's teacher also from in the English department. I welcome you, ma'am, to the program. Then I would like to welcome the faculty members who have joined here. Ramesh sir, IQAC team members, Misha teacher, Jisha teacher, Laiju, Ganesh sir, everybody to the webinar. Last but not the least, I would like to welcome all the students to the webinar for whom this is conducted. Now, before I end my welcome address, I would like to just specify a name here. That is Mr. Krishna Kant. I would like to thank him. He's from D2BCA, who has been helping me out doing these wonderful posters. I always call him in the middle of the night, asking him last minute changes or making posters in the last minute, but he does that for me. So with that, I conclude my welcome address, and I would like to ask Anisha to do her job. Anisha. Hello, Anisha. Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, fine. We can hear
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So thank you for that lovely introduction, ma'am. I think your introduction itself was very detailed.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, Anisha. Anisha.
Can you hear me? I think
Yeah,
there's a issue.
slight problem, I guess. There's some problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So um so today I've been assigned with a very big responsibility, a great responsibility, to present to you all a very relevant topic, as ma'am mentioned. It is about gender perspective in today's time. So, as the title itself suggests, um, it's very much understood that uh, we are going to touch upon the aspects of gender. And before I get into the crux of it, I would like to share my presentation on the screen so that you will have an idea as to what I'll be talking throughout the session and the agenda and everything. So I'm going to just share my screen. Um, just let me know if it's visible to all the participants.
Not yet.
Okay, I think that it'll take a little bit of time.
Yeah. Yes, it's visible.
It's visible, right? So
Yeah.
it's on a full format. Yeah. Okay. Um, so sanitizing us, a gender perspective in COVID times. This would be today's agenda. So I'll be running through the introduction, and then I'll be moving on to the topic gender sensitization, where I'll be covering the definition or the meaning of the topic, the importance, and why do we need it. And then I'll move on to the next topic, which is the gender roles, their meaning, and then we'll have a little bit of a comparison, that is a perspective from the past and what is it in the present times, and then moving on to the gender issues, and the main one being gender inequality and the reasons behind it, what we need to do and how we could do, and the last few minutes I would keep it for like a discussion or a feedback from the students. So are we clear with the agenda, for with today's agenda?
Yes.
If there is any doubt, you can stop me in between, and if I'm too fast or if there's any issue, please feel free to stop me in between. So this topic has been a discussion for a very long time. A lot of changes has been visible in this area, and it has become one of the highlighted topic that grabs a lot of attention, be it from the media, be it from the political platforms, from the educational institutions, from teachers, youngsters and students. And I think everybody has an opinion uh, about about this topic, and we are all contributing in a way to overcome the issues that we are facing related to gender. And this session would be completely incomplete if I don't make a reference to our roots, India. So like ma'am gave the introduction, I am from India. I grew up in India. It's just been 2 years since that I moved to Dublin. And you actually experience, or you actually notice a lot of changes, but it does not stop me from telling or talking about my own country. So India is a country that is celebrated all over, and it has one of the oldest culture. It has um, a, its roots go back to one of the oldest culture, and civilization has started 4,500 years ago. And it's rightly said that it is a land full of diversity, which has many languages, religions, festivals, and traditions, and we can just go on about it. And when we picturize India, or when we talk about India, it is a land which is filled with a lot of differences. It is colorful, but it is definitely filled with a lot of differences. And people have come a long way. uh, we have faced many problems, and we have always stood united to overcome the issues which are faced in our country. And at the same time, um, this can be applicable to the our present times, that is the COVID times. And it is during this time that we all actually come together on a very unique platform, like what we didn't use before, and we go on talking or discussing about a lot of things that we wouldn't do in our past. And there were a lot of restrictions on a lot of platforms, or we didn't have the time to use the social media, or things like that. But during this pandemic, it is given as an opportunity, or it is given us a chance to um, explore the other side. And social media, like I mentioned, has become a very important one, uh, where um, it is at its peak. And we are using the social media to expose many issues that we are facing in our society. And we get to see a lot of people reacting to the issues openly, and bringing out their opinions, their views about it. And this has become like an eye opener to many people. So with all these great roots and background, we need to have a little bit of a reality check. But what is the reality? When we compare the past and the present, there were a few issues that were present within our society. So there was caste system, there was corruption in the past, there was illiteracy, there was uh, education system, but again, it was not up to the mark. Then there was poverty, pollution, gender issues, women's safety. So a lot of topics, or a lot of issues were there in the past. So what has happened in the present times? Have we overcome all those issues? Definitely, we have come a long way. There has been a lot of improvements, and uh, we have uh, changed a lot of aspects in our society. But these points that I just mentioned, which when we look at the past, when a few points that we look at the past, it's still there. It's still present in our society. So, what is the problem? Why are we not able to uh, completely erase the issues, or completely overcome the problems that we once faced? So it's not a very simple task. It's not very easy. Just one fine day we wake up, and then we just do a session, or we just go on for a training, or we just go in for a camping, and then we we expect to overcome or erase the problem. That's not possible. But there are few things that we can do. We can contribute to the society in a very positive way. And what would those positive ways would be one of the questions that we need to ask ourselves. So, when I was preparing for this webinar, I obviously did a little bit of my research and things like that. So, one of the reports from UNDP, which is the United Nations Development Program, and it is a UN's global network which advocates change and which connects countries to knowledge, experience, and resources where they focus on building better lives. So, one of the reports which was put out from them, or which came out from them in the year 2016, stated that India stood in out of 146, India stood 130th rank in the light of gender inequality index. And when it came to the year 2019 or 2020, we would obviously assume that they would have been a, a more growth, a better index. But what we see is that there is a drop in the rank, and we stand at the 112th rank. And this rank is obtained after addressing only the 66% of gap that was actually seen. So there's still more. When you look deeply into it, there's still a gap in the gender inequality index. And the annual report by the National Crime Records Bureau, NCRB, is something that took me by alarm. You know, like, the abuse against women or girl children are so high in our country. Um, it says that there are 32,033 rape cases that have been reported across the country, and now I'm sure that there are so many cases that goes unreported, which are not reported, which does not come into this social media or any platform. um, and I think this can be well understood, or we can all connect to it with the recent the Harita case, where the girl was gang raped. And um, what has been done, like, the question of, was justice done to her family? Was there a respect which was respect paid to her final burial time? So all these questions keep coming up, and as I was following up on this case of Harita case, just 10 days ago, there was a 6-year-old girl who was raped by a 30-year-old man, and she suffered major injuries and she was admitted to a hospital. And very sadly, she lost her life yesterday. So it is like a chain. There is no stopping of these violence against women. It's just going on. And it said that every 15 minutes a girl child is being harmed or abused or violated, raped. So the rate is very alarming, and I think it is high time that we as youngsters, especially you students, um, think about it and act upon it and find a solution to it. And today, when we talk about uh, uh, all these rape cases and things like that, we think that is uh, we have overcome a few things like female infanticide or feticides. But again, these uh, cruel acts, though it is punishable by law, it's still carried out in many parts of our country in an illegal way. And when we move into the topic of marriages, again, we say that we have evolved a lot and we have started to think different. But again, according to reports, there are cases which involve early marriages, and this is not just to the rural areas of our country. It even applies to the urban areas of our country. So there's 56% of cases in our um, rural, and then there's 29% in our urban area. Again, that's a lot. That's the percentage of these early marriages are a lot. And when we look at the education system, um, there are so many laws that are being passed by the government. And in the latest 2010 law, it said that every child has the right to have free education from the age of 6 to 14 years of age, but it is not compulsory. So when it becomes a not compulsory case, many girl children again are being restricted from going to school, attending their education and gaining their basic education, which is again taking away their rights. And then there is trafficking and slavery of women, where women are being pushed into prostitution, forced labor, and this actually stands as a very sad reality. And I think it's high time that we start taking step towards it. Now, as an educational institution, what we can do is that we kind of introduce the into the curriculum a module which can be like a gender sensitization, and then it should be like a cell where you can address a lot of issues, where um, the youngsters come in together and they understand what actually gender sensitization means, and what gender sensitivity is, and what we can do to stop all the negative uh, aspects that is being developing in our society. So how we do this again becomes a very huge question, and it is a very tricky one. And when I say it's a tricky one, because gender as it is a very sensitive topic. So let's just look into the very basic first. We'll get into the basic, and then from there on we'll move on to the a little bit of a complex of the issues and things like that. So what is gender sensitization? um, it is being defined as a process of modification of behavior where you raise awareness of gender equality concerns. Now, like I mentioned, this can be achieved through various platforms. It can be campaigns, it can be training centers, it can be workshops, programs, or a module into the curriculum, or simply like a webinar like this. This webinar is basically to spread awareness, to have an understanding of what gender sensitization is and what are a few issues that we face, okay, as a society. And uh, gender sensitization also combines a few theories that claims that when a modification is carried out onto the behavior of an individual towards the children, this can have a very causal effect on gender equality. And when we talk about this, we are focusing on instilling empathy. Okay, now empathy is how we view from one person's situation, being in one person's shoes, into the views um, about our own gender and about the other gender, which allows one to understand the differences between ourselves and others. It gives us an opportunity to analyze ourselves, analyze other gender, and to have a better understanding of gender as a whole. And when we understand it as a whole, and when we are able to think about how other people think about a gender, or how we think and feel and understand about a gender, it makes life a lot more easier. It makes life a lot more better. So in schools, we have all studied, or our teachers have always explained this very basic um, difference. Okay, so that is the difference between what is sex, what is gender, and what is sexuality. So sex is nothing but the very basic uh, biological composition, that is the male and the female, which is uh, which occurs in any species. Okay, now it can be present in a plant, it can be present in human being, in any animals. So it is inherent, and it is by birth, and it's just the male and the female. And what is gender? Well, gender is something that we construct. It is it is influenced by the external factors, and it is basically a social construct, where one's behavior, culture, psychology, and emotion are associated with one's sex. And when I talk about sexuality, it simply means one's preference. Now, I'm sure you have heard about terms such as homosexual, heterosexual, or in today's term, we are all very, very familiar with the words such as gay, lesbians, bisexual, and transgender. So, this is something that we all need to understand. What are the differences of all these three terms? Because often people get confused, and they make a very big and a huge deal out of it because they don't understand the very basic of it. And as youngsters, we really need to understand the importance of gender sensitization, because it helps an individual become more open minded. It helps us to have a very unbiased thought and action, and we also act very rational when we are sensitized towards gender. It also allows us to break the orthodox beliefs, that is the traditional beliefs, and biased values, which means a more partial values which are based on gender, and these are very much present in our society. When we are all sensitized towards gender, this will allow us to have a progressive existence, where the both where both gender, or all genders, now I can't say just two genders, now where all genders will be able to re-establish work and personal life, where they will be contributing equally, and there will be gender equality. And why is there a need? Now everybody would think that it's such a waste of time. We all know about this. We all can just go through Instagram and we can look at a lot of videos that are coming up, and then we know about it. But why is it very important to introduce our youngsters uh, to be more gender sensitive and to understand the issues? Is basically to promote safety of women, and it is also to assure, just like how ma'am had mentioned during her introduction, that it is not an indication to men against discrimination. It is nothing against the male population. Now, when I say there are issues, there are a lot of issues that are being faced by men too. Even men are harassed and they are being abused. It's just that it does not come out to the limelight as much as how it comes out, or import more importance is not given to how a women abuse or when harassment is done. So we are actually on a very um, what can I say? There is a struggle. There's a struggle to keep up the balance. So when we talk about the topic sensitization, it's not to point out at men. It's not to keep point fingers at them and say that look, all men are bad and you all are supposed to treat women right. It's not that. It is simply to make sure that that balance arises among the gender. It is also to eliminate the gender based prejudice and to change the stereotyping in in all aspects of life. Now it could be work culture, that is where in an organization that you work at, in schools, in colleges, and even at home. Okay, now sometimes we say that or it is looked at as mothers are expected to cook, mothers are expected to keep the house clean and tidy. But these are small points that we all need to look into, and we need to think, and we need to start changing these uh, because again it's associated with stereotypes. Because again, you know, a certain gender is supposed to do a certain type of job or role, and that leads to gender inequality. That is why we need sensitization to eradicate all these problems. And the next point would be for a better knowledge and understanding of the issues at all levels of the society, and where we will be helping others to develop, to take a stand at their own level, to stand up for their own rights, um, to support and promote the wellness of the opposite gender and their own gender, and to overcome any sort of differentiation or harassment that comes in the name of gender. So when we say why we need it and how the importance of it, just like I mentioned, it goes back into, it is all connected. Now all these topics are interrelated. It goes back into the topic of gender roles. So what are gender roles? It's simply how individuals are expected to behave. Okay, so they are these social constructs. They are having a certain set of expectations from the individuals on how we act, how we speak, how we dress, groom, and how we conduct ourselves. And it is based upon our assigned sex. Now, uh, when you talk about a girl, you obviously picturize her wearing a lot of makeup, wearing, dressing up really well. And when you talk about a man, you associate the person to be very macho, very built, and very masculine. So these were these are something that is assigned or which are being socially constructed. And every society, every ethnic group, every culture has a set of expectations from the gender and the role they play. And it need not be same or same throughout the groups. It not be like it is very similar on all the group levels. It can be different, and it can also change in the society over time. But these fixed assumptions about the gender roles lead to stereotyping of gender and other issues which we'll be discussing in the short run. So, like I mentioned in my agenda, I will be comparing the past and the present because it's very important to see if we have changed or if there are been a lot of differences that has come into uh, the topic of gender. When we look at it, a lot of things have definitely changed now. Like, for example, women enjoy a lot of freedom. They are coming out of the restricted zones, and they are like growing in in different paths, and they're succeeding and they're achieving in a lot of areas of life. But when you look at the past, it's very understood. Like women were made to stay at home, they were forced to carry out the household chores and take care of the family, and they were also treated on a ranking which was like on a hierarchy based. But at present, the entire country and the entire nation is working towards it, and we can see that there are changes, and these changes are actually noticeable, and it is carried out in the field of education, in professional achievements, and we can see that women are equally contributing to the family income, to the economy, and to the society as a whole. But the question again arises, are all these done without struggle? No, I don't think so. There is a struggle everywhere, and there is a need which arises to prove themselves over and over again. So this leads to the process of becoming a little unfair. Now I'm sure that all the women who are attending the seminar will also say that, be it workplace, be it your home, in anywhere you'll have to keep proving yourself to be on that top level. So why is this constantly happening? Why is this um, issue coming up? And this is basically because of the gender stereotyping that is actually present in our society. What is gender stereotype? Now it's self understood, like stereotype, it's just a judgment, and which is very biased about a person or a group, which actually causes a lot of unequal and unfair treatment, and this is called sexism. Gender stereotyping has a lot of negative impact um, on the individuals and on the society, and it is spread across all domains of life, be it emotional level, be it the mental level. It is effective, it is seen, and it is very effective on the behavior and the activities of the individual. And researchers show that there are four different types of stereotype. Now, to make this a little bit more interesting, um, I would ask you all to think about our textbooks. Now, when we were young, we used to have pictures in our textbooks. So, these pictures in our textbook, and I think even till date, it remains quite a little bit same. There's very slight changes which have been done. So, when we talk about different occupations, um, you know, we always associate certain gender to certain things. So like I said, there are four types of stereotypes. Now they are based on occupations, on your personality traits, on the domestic behavior, and the physical appearance. So personality traits is nothing but, to explain it more simplified, I will tell you using an example. So women are expected to be very emotional and accommodating, while men are usually expected to be very aggressive, very masculine, or very self confident. Now, these could be a few personality traits that people associate with. And then it comes to domestic behavior. People expect that women take care of children, cook, and clean the home. And men are associated with taking care of finance, and they are associated with working with a car, or doing a home repair, or being a mechanic and things like that. And again, when it comes to occupation, you see that when you refer to a teacher or a nurse, the first image that comes up, or an advertisement that comes up, or anything, even a cartoon that comes up, you see that it's a female, it's a lady, it's a woman. And when you talk about pilots and engineers, it's men. And then your physical appearance, like I mentioned before, um, you, women are expected to look a certain way. You're expected to look thin, you're expected to be very graceful, and you're expected to be uh, groom yourself in ways and keep yourself very beautiful. And uh, men are just tall and muscular. That's it. So these are the gender stereotypes that come. And obviously, when such stereotype come in, and when we have assumptions that certain gender has to do certain things, or certain gender has to look this way, or conduct themselves in a particular way, it leads to gender issues. It leads to gender inequality. And when when we talk about gender issues, it includes all the aspects and concerns that are related to women and men, and the lives and the situation in the society, and how we all relate and interrelate to it, and the differences that we see across, and how we use the resources, and how the activities are planned, and how we all react to these changes and interventions and policies. So it's basically associated with how these gender roles have been determined, have been socially constructed, and how, you know it's like affecting both the gender. It's just not women, and somewhere we are not understanding that, or we are unable to notice that kind of a problem. And one of the main issue when we talk about gender issue is the gender inequality. And it is very much again uh, there even in today's time. It just keep repeating itself. Like like I said, women is progressing, but again, it is with a bit of struggle. It is with a lot of biased opinions. We have to overcome a lot of biased opinions. We have to overcome a lot of um, uh, to put it across, it's just a struggle of power. It's basically that. And it refers to the legal, the social, and cultural situation in which a gender determine their rights and dignity. It can be applicable for both men and women, and they are reflected in their unequal access, um, or enjoyment of rights, as well as assumptions of these stereotyped social and cultural roles. Why does gender equality rise, or how is it born? So, while thinking about it deeply, uh, I had mentioned about the sexual preferences or the orientation. So, when we look at the sexual orientation of an individual, it is just an enduring pattern of the sexual attraction to the person of the opposite sex or gender, the same sex or gender, or both sexes, okay, or more than one gender. So sexual orientation is nothing but, in very simplified term, it's just your preference. So it is how you are attracted to the other gender. And when we talk about this, again, it leads to the uh, minority group. And I'm sure um, we all have heard about it, the LGBT community. And what it stands for is the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. So, like I said, they are the minority. Just like women, they face many issues. Uh, And obviously, when we talk about issues, we are connecting them to the negative aspect. And what are the type of issues that we face? Okay, so I've just tried to put it in a more like what can I say, into a smaller section, so that I don't use up a lot of time. So it's these are like very self-explanatory and they're very self-understood. So these are the few issues that all the minority groups face. So there is wage gap which is seen. And when I talk about the wage gap, it refers to the um, pay or the income that one individual receives, and there is no equality in it. It is based on their gender. Now, for example, if you take an organization, man is always placed above, like he's the boss, so he gets paid more, and maybe women are paid less. Okay, and when it comes to professional growth, there are a lot of obstacles which the minority group faces. Now, let's take the example of transgenders. Um, it's not that every part of the country, in every state of the country, that they are treated in a fair way. There are many transgenders who does not have a decent job, who are not getting a decent wage or income, and this pushes them into a very negative zone, and that is why they go into a very negative zone, and we often point out them and we criticize them, but we are failing to see as to why it is happening. Now, one more point that I want to emphasize is during the COVID time, we are talking about women, we are talking about men, but who is addressing the issues of transgenders? So what are they doing during the COVID times? Now there are a lot of unemployment, there have been a lot of layoffs uh, among everyone, like a lot of people. So what about them? Like, we are all saying that we have lost jobs, or we need the government to help us, and or things like that. But when it comes to the minority group, like the transgenders, it is not even being addressed. At times we fail to even address their issues. So there are a lot of obstacles that everybody faces when it comes to the minority group. They all face this, and um, there is no growth in the field of choice, and there is a constant need where they have to break that chain of struggle in order to stay ahead. And then obviously the point of violence and sexual harassment comes in. Like I mentioned, because of these stereotyping, because there is no understanding of the gender, when a person is thinking that one gender is weak than the other, that's when the violence and the harassment comes in. Now, uh, let's say the gay men, even they face problems, be it outside when they use public transport. Maybe they are dressed in a certain way, or they have traits of being a little bit more on a feminine side. They are being harassed, they are being they people pass comments at them, and they look at them as dirty people, and you know so there's a constant harassment when of this hierarchical system. So again, that is very negative, and it will have a very negative impact on the individual's life. And then when we talk about um, laws, we still see that in few countries the custodial rights, it's not given to women. Like, uh, they are being declined of having the rights over their children if they're going on for a divorce, and if at all they're going for a divorce, uh, they don't get a divorce on time, or it is being dragged. So again, the law, it does not stand by them. So again, all these things come into the highlight. And also the lack of mobility and freedom. So when I say mobility and freedom, as a woman, there are instances where you cannot travel as you wish and when you wish, and whenever you want to go to a place, you can't just pack your bag and go. It becomes very it this current situation is such that it is a difficult situation, because there is a threat. There is a threat towards women, and there's a lot of violence that is taking place. So you restrict. So you feel that there is no safety, there's no safe place. So you think twice before you step out of home. So there is a restriction in your freedom, there is a restriction in your mobility. And the hierarchy, there is a hierarchy that falls into place, which comes into place. And it goes back into what we used to fight for, what we used to fight against, like the caste system, or there was a hierarchy in the past, and we all used to talk about it and we used to fight against it. But now it's coming back, it's still present in a society because of these gender roles, or because of these gender stereotypes. It's still present. And then, like I mentioned, the struggle for power, it is there in our daily life. We all struggle to prove ourselves, and to prove a point, you need to show that you're more powerful. So all these are the effects of stereotypes. And what happens when such things take place? I just explained, it's very negative on the individual, it is very negative on the society, and it affects the country as a whole. And we go back into questioning ourselves, like, why does it exist? Now the reasons can be like right in front of our eyes. It's it's all connected to us. Okay, it goes back into our roots, it goes back into us, it goes back into our daily activities. It is one, because of the culture. So like I said, India has a very old culture, and we follow those traditions. And in certain culture, certain things are not accepted, and people have grown in such a way that they have made their mindset that this is this and that is that, and there is no in between, or there is no inclusion. Okay, there is no including a new idea into what they believe in. And it is also because of the beliefs and attitude of the individual. Now if I believe that uh, transgenders are against nature, the gay men are against nature, or the lesbians are against nature, if I strongly believe in that, I am going to be against these people. And when I see them approaching me, or if I see them walk in the society, I am going to have that um, negative uh, thought about them. I am going to um, not accept them, and I'm going to have that constant fear or constant hatred towards them. you know it all depends on your attitude. When your attitude is like, no, you can't accept it, you can't accept new ideas and new learnings, then there is a stagnation there. So you tend to not look ahead, you don't go for forward, and that becomes a huge problem. And then there is an uneven access to education. Though our education system has beautifully grown, it has built over times, it has developed and grown over times, there's still uneven access. Like, there are instances where people are fighting to get that basic education. So, and also when we say education, the right kind of education is not imparted to the students or the children. They're not guided in the right path, and maybe the focus should be on certain things, but the focus is spread all over, and so the main issues are being pushed towards the back, and they take a very micro position in the child's life. So when we talk about education, I think it should be a quality education where people or the teachers, as parents, we should be able to educate our kids, educate our children the right way, and show them that this is right, this is wrong, and you should always make sure that the children are open to learnings and open to accepting new ideas. And then there is lack of employment equality, just like I mentioned. Even though we say that the government is promoting employment or opportunities for everybody, and everybody are taken into consideration, there is a struggle when you go in for an interview, and when you tick the third uh, box of gender, the entire attitude of the interview session changes, and they're going to question as to going to question each and everything about that individual. They're not going to make that platform very unbiased. Okay, so there's still biased system in the employment system. And then job segregations, again, we segregate jobs according to the gender roles, and we are always associating that certain type of jobs suit certain gender, and the chances are, opportunities are lesser. And then the legal protection. Now, when I talk about violence, and it's still taking place, it's still constant, it's still constantly growing, it is because of that lack of protection from the law or the legal protection. If our laws were very strong, if our laws were um, pinpoint, there are chances that you can eradicate these issues. So it exists because of a loophole in our legal system. And the bodily autonomy, like I said, uh, women are looked at as very weak and very shy, and then men are looked at as very strong. So again, it comes into uh, the same pattern. And very important, this mindset. Now, the mindset of the individual and the mindset of a society. So obviously the individuals contribute to the society, and when we say that we look at certain things with in a certain way, and you don't change your mindset, there will be issues. When we are not able to accept changes, there will be issues. And that is why that um, gender issues and inequality still dominates our society, because of these few reasons. And there are a lot more reasons, like when we get into an active discussion, there will be a lot more of points that will come up. I've just added, or I've just highlighted the very basic ones, or the very obvious ones, which we all need to think about and uh, work on. So what we need as a society. So, for a better world, for a better society, there should be equality in all aspects of life. And when today's topic being gender, so I would emphasize that we should have gender equality, and that there should be no violence against any gender. For that instance, be it, be it the transgenders or women or the minority groups or men, there should be no violence. And how can we achieve this? So it's all interrelated. If we are uh, promoting a change in mindset, a change in attitude, and if we encourage that sort of a behavior or a modification in children and youngsters, we will be able to achieve the gender equality, and we will be working towards a society where there is no violence. And again, the education system has to gear up. They have to make sure that there are modules which are included in their curriculum, which addresses all the issues. And then one part of that. And then there's access of education to everybody, you know, irrespective of their gender. And uh, and we should also um, see to that we learn how to accept reality. There are certain things that in psychology we say that you need to learn how to unlearn. So when, as young young kids, you know, if we are taught a certain way, you will have to be ready to unlearn them. You'll have to be open enough to unlearn those things and learn new ideas and get into the reality and accept reality, so that you will have a very inclusive society. Now when I talk about inclusive society, um, individuals are all different. You can't say that we are all the same, and we you know, even twins, they will have a little bit of differences in there. So you should learn how to include everybody into the society and into that zone, and be united. Like I said, India stands united always. So only when we as a community comes together and we start including all people, be it a person with disability, be it a person who belongs to any gender, all these things fall under inclusiveness. So we have to promote that inclusiveness among ourselves. And then there's something called empowerment. So it's something that's very self understood. So you need to empower the people who are weaker. You need to um, stand up with them. You need to support them, and you need to always help them stand on their own terms or on their own level, so that they don't have to turn to someone else when they in the time of need. They have to be equipped, you know, to fight against all odds, to fight against all uh, negative aspects or the wrongs. And then obviously the very crux of it, the sensitivity part, that is, we need to be gender sensitive. We need to understand and feel for the other gender, and we need to uh, do that in a very what do I say, uh, gracious manner, because their struggle is different. So everyone is fighting their own battles. So we need to be very sensitive, and only when we are sensitive we'll understand as to why women are this way, why men are this way, and why a transgender or a gay or a lesbian is that way. So when you make a child or a youngster sensitive towards these aspects, they understand the life better, they understand the system better, and they also treat other people with a lot of respect, with a lot of um, care, okay, with a lot of love. So that is what we need in today's time. So if you're sensitive, I think half of the issues can be solved and half of the problems can be solved, because there is an experiment that was conducted in the country of Africa, where these young children were introduced with a subject. Okay, it was like inculcated into their curriculum, and gender sensitization was a subject, and it was different for girl and the boy, or the girls and the boys. So the girls were taught self defense, how to say no, and things like that, and the boys were taught how to ask consent, how to um, understand what a girl is going through, or how to support a girl when she needs, or how to protect a girl. And it showed such amazing results. It's ongoing experiment actually, and it shows amazing results where the violence, the harassment level, the abuse level, everything has decreased drastically. And and there are points where you know, the kids say that they understand each other better. They are able to look at each other not as a threat, but you know, humans as friends. And and that sort of brings out a lot of balance between the two. And so there's a constant hand holding, so it's like a support system. So when you're sensitive, there people start thinking, and when you think twice before you do you commit an action or you do something, there will be a difference. So this is what we need to do, and this is how we can do. And as teachers and as parents, I think if we start um, modifying our behavior, and we stand out as an example to our children and to our youngsters, I think it can be a amazing difference. And as youngsters, you know, even you can be a role models. Like, you as students are very powerful, and like your college, St. Mary's College, is so huge, and it's so your teachers and your staff is so supportive of each other, that you can come out with so many ideas, like working towards sensitivity. And once you start doing that, you yourself will see a difference, and you will have that pride as students that you're contributing so much to the society, and it is for the welfare of the society, and it is for the welfare of your community as well. And it helps you to build yourself and each other in the process. So I think how we do it, it can differ from anyone. So this was just an example of what I was thinking. So from person to person, it can differ, it even in smaller ways. It can be very simple gestures. When you see a transgender, when you just communicate with them with a lot of respect and with a lot of empathy, there is a difference that you're making, because they are going to feel good about them. And then people who are watching you are going to understand that, okay, this is the way the person has to be treated. So you're just paving the path, and you're just showing them that you can do much better, and we can be much better human beings in life. So I think how we do it, again, it's up to us. Okay, it's not that it's just these points that you have to stick to, or these are the only points that are there present in our world, but it all depends on the individual, and it all depends on you. So you are the main people who can make a lot of difference in this aspect. So yeah, I think I've come to a conclusion